I've covered 6, I think now, Seattle mayors, and I used to be down at City Hall a lot. And there have been some incompetent mayors, there have been some shady mayors and all of this stuff, but I've never seen a press conference at City Hall for a mayor dealt with like this.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're heading back to Seattle to talk about how rough it is out there for the mayor that is so far in over her head that her own staff has to stand next to her to hold her hand at a press conference. And on top of that, you see big businesses are packing up and leaving the city, and now she has to face that recall that's going to be, and then we have a recall against the mayor that could be decided in just a few days. So grab a seat, let's get into it.
Katie Wilson already has a track record of running from the media, like sneaking out back doors so she doesn't have to answer questions, having her PR flackies refuse to allow the media to ask her questions that are off topic. So I want you to pay attention to the PR flacky that is like standing next to Katie Wilson while she's having a press conference.
So we're working very hard on updating and improving, better coordinating our city's approach to gun violence. And I know we'll have more to share about that in the coming weeks.
Okay. Just making sure that we're talking about Vision Zero, right?
Okay.
Watch this PR flacky's face.
You know, there's been a lot of discussion about public safety, and, you know, like people have, Councilmember Hannibal has accused you of not having a plan for public safety. Would you like to respond to that and kind of talk more about the holistic view of public
How mad she
safety?
is.
Sure. And I mean, I think I responded to that a little bit with the earlier gentleman's question.
Yeah, so can we stick to the topic? Can we stick to the topic? And then they don't, and she just sits there. She's seething.
Okay, right there.
I see a lot of conferences, and some are more under control than others. I think, you know, people complain about Mandami. He handles this much better than Katie Wilson. It just shows that she really, really, really is not comfortable with this job. The biggest part of this job is to deal with the public and answer questions that may not be the point of you being there, because you answer to the entire city and what's going on. There's so much going on. It can't always be just about what you want to talk about.
So again, I don't want to speak for Councilmember Saka.
Come help her.
Yeah.
You guys.
Angie can come up. I know. Yes. So yes, it does address this.
I've never seen a press conference at City Hall for a mayor dealt with like this, where you literally have the PR flacky right there. It is clear that the people around Seattle's socialist mayor realize that she's in way over her head. And they are trying to keep her afloat.
So you see Seattle's Mayor Katie Wilson holding a press conference. Now, it's supposed to be about traffic safety, but the day before, a city council member went on TV and said, hey, listen, the mayor has no public safety plan at all. So the reporters show up ready to ask questions. They want some answers. So you have the PR person, her communications director. Every time a reporter asks a hard question, it seems like this PR person jumps in. A reporter's asking about the safety plan. The PR goes, can we stick with the topic? No, that is not your call. You don't get to tell reporters what they can ask the mayor of this major city. So it gets worse, because at one point you see right there that the mayor is floundering. She doesn't know what to say. She does not have the necessary PR ability at this point. I mean, basically the PR person has to feed her lines. Reporter asks where another councilman is, and the PR person has to lean in and say, well, they can't speak for this person. And then the mayor just repeats it back word for word. They're feeding her answers on the camera. So think about that. If you're trying to make your boss look strong, the last thing you want to do is stand next to the boss and hold the boss's hand in front of every reporter in the room. It makes her look like she can't handle the job on her own. And honestly, as we see for the last couple of months, she can't. 9 months in, she's facing a recall. The judge hears this case in just a few days. So this is a really sad part to watch because people voted for this, but this is the person they wanted to run the city. That's why she won the election. Now, speaking of people getting a little help to stay afloat, let me put you on something that actually helps you keep more of your money. Now let's talk about the businesses running out the door. First up, Starbucks. So the headquarters is in Seattle, always been, but now obviously they opened that second headquarters in Nashville, and they're swearing that the HQ is going to stay open, but a lot of people are not buying it.
More layoffs in the city of Seattle, specifically at Starbucks HQ. And I knew this was going to happen because remember, Starbucks is opening, and I think they're going to be called out at some point for kind of lying about this, but they've claimed that this second HQ in Nashville that they're opening is just that, a second HQ. and that they're not shutting down the HQ they have in Seattle, I just disagree. I think that they're trying to wind down operations in Seattle. So they are laying off 224 employees from HQ, and that includes workers who declined to move to Nashville. So basically, and this is part of restructuring, they said that there were some jobs going to Nashville, and if people didn't want to move, then obviously they were going to be laid off. So 224 total layoffs, 104 of those support roles, 120 of those are people who specifically declined to move to Nashville.
So it looks like here, I think I agree with her. I think most likely they're going to probably move out of Seattle. Why would they stay? Costs probably more to do business in Seattle than it does in Nashville. And they could probably get the same amount of work done. Why do you need to be in Seattle? You don't. In fact, you probably save money if you just slowly move out of Seattle. And this is not barista jobs. These are corporate jobs that they're just throwing away. But there's no layoffs that's happening in the Nashville location. It's happening in Seattle locations. Why? Because it's not a pro-business climate in Seattle. It's the complete opposite.
It's just the latest in a long, long list of things that socialists and liberals and progressives have done to make it very inhospitable to do business here. There's a reason there's a 37% office vacancy rate in downtown Seattle. And it's not because of the pandemic, because it's the highest office vacancy rate of any major city in the nation. There's cities that are not dealing with this. And you can't blame the pandemic for everything forever, okay? And yeah, are there some offices that, probably found that remote work was just fine and they sent people home so they didn't have to pay the cost of a big lease? Absolutely. But what we're seeing in Seattle is above and beyond that phenomenon that happened across the country.
So it's not just Starbucks. Tyson Foods is putting up a beef plant for sale. That's the biggest beef plant in the whole Pacific Northwest.
Tyson Foods is shopping its Pasco area beef plant, the largest beef processing facility in the Pacific Northwest. Tyson blamed one of the worst cattle shortages in American history and said it will anchor its beef business around 3 plants in Nebraska, Kansas, and Texas.
Certainly the tax issues are mounting, but our cost of production is extremely high when we look across the border to Idaho. And I know in Olympia, that's the last thing the legislature wants to hear is, well, Idaho, Idaho, Idaho. But it is very challenging when we look and we see the economic and regulatory layers and how they differ from Washington state to some of our neighboring states.
So when this news dropped, the cattle market took a nosedive the same day. Now, the good news, it's a sale, not a full shutdown, but it's one more sign of stress. Then you have TikTok. Apparently they cut 75 jobs in their Bellevue office. And Bellevue was the one place trying hard to stay business friendly. It doesn't matter. State policy hits them as well. And here's a number that really tells the story. I had Brandy mention this earlier in the video. Downtown Seattle has a 37% office vacancy rate. That's the highest of any major city in the country. Other cities figured it out past the pandemic, and Seattle didn't. So when people ask why businesses are leaving, it's because of high taxes, it's because the millionaires' tax is coming, and leaders can't get a handle on public safety. People and companies vote with their feet, and right now they're walking out. That's why the recall is coming. That's why her approval ratings are very, very low. 60% of people said that she should resign or be removed from office. That is completely brutal. That's a city that has seen enough. She's losing on her own base. It looks like she doesn't know what she is doing. That's why that recall has been filed, and we'll see in a couple of days if the judge will allow it to continue. And most likely, they're probably going to do that. So that's where Seattle stands right now. A mayor who can't answer a simple question without help, businesses heading for the exits, and a recall that can land any day now. I'll be watching the recall hearing close. So if you want the update when it drops, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think about this story below. Do you think that Seattle is fixable or is too far gone? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.